Hey everyone. In class we talked about working with Excel and or Google Sheets in order to do some of these things with the computer and software. I'm going to take a moment to show you around Google Sheets and a couple of the things that you'll do: simple adding formulas, rearranging data, and then I'll add more, and I'll try to do it in both situations in future ones. But I think once you get into it, you'll start to understand the concept and be able to switch back and forth pretty easily. I'm in our course right now, and I'm going to open up the chapter files. I'm picking the individual one because I didn't show this the other day. Whoops. And I'm actually going to do this in an incognito window because it'll look like what somebody who is not signed in looks like. So in the chapter 1 files, instead of having them all in one file, I have all of the files separate here. You'll see that they're all Google Sheets. If I were to sign in, and I will do that, I'll use a fake account. I don't want to be Superman today. Let's be Batman. And if I can remember the password for this. So there we go. This is what it'll look like when you're signed in. You'll notice there's not a huge difference except for over here it's got, Bruce Wayne as the person that signed in. One of the things that you can do with this is get this ready for you to work with. I'll use an example, the one that we were using today, exercise 110. Which I actually don't see exercise 110. So let me just grab an exercise. This is exercise 111. It might actually be one of the ones that you're working on. So exercise 111 already has this kind of title in here. So the problem is when I'm working on this, you'll notice that this is view only for me. I can't edit these things. I can type all I want, nothing's happening. So remember, you can make a copy of this for yourself. Call it whatever you want. And you can make that in a folder. So I'm going to go into this and not make it in that folder. I'll put it in my drive. I'd suggest that you have, create a new folder here, maybe called Math 117 or something. And then I'll select putting it in that folder. So it tells me where I'm going to put that copy of that. Then it opens it right away. And you'll notice now I'm working on a copy of this. And then I'm putting it right here. Typically, if you are working in something like this, it's usually pretty standard for people when they're working with these types of files to change the name on the file. So for example, if I were to ever collect this, I'd have you change the name of this file to be like exercise 111, and then last name dot first name or something like that. But we'll get into those things if I ask you to turn those in. But notice how I just changed it by clicking in there. So let me show you really quickly all of the fields and rows and columns I can work with over here. I can click on that and you'll notice it highlighted the entire row here. I'm just going to right click on this thing and delete it. Just to show you can delete the rows. You can highlight things and then grab them. You see the little hand float out there and move that set of data somewhere else. But I'm going to keep it where it was. What we do a lot of times, like I said, if you were typing in data on your own, I would go ahead and say, I want to add a row. And this is in Google Sheets. I can insert one above and it'll add an empty row here. And then here I've got, these are countries. And this, I don't know, we're just going to call it numbers because I don't know what the example is about. And then you can do, again, you can select entire rows like I did here or entire columns just by clicking on the letters. Notice they're all highlighted. I am going to select, in this case, just these two rows, and I'm going to hit the little data filter. Remember, we did it before by going data and then filter. But I'm going to click it, notice it only sorts these columns for me. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to put a couple of those things over here that we talked about being able to find. So a couple of really key features in here. You can insert formulas without doing any typing. You can just go up here where it says insert and you can grab a function, and it's got some pre-built ones in here. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to insert let's do a count. I want to know how many these are. So I'm going to count, and I'm just going to highlight the numbers. I just clicked and dragged, and so notice it's counting from B2 to B39. That's these letters. B2 is the first cell, and then B39 is the last cell. So I'm just hitting count there, and it's saying, hey, there's 38 of these things. Well, that's great. I could have done that really quickly by looking from 2 to 39, subtracting. You got that. I can also add formulas by starting anything with the equal key, and if you have an idea of what it is. So for example, I want to find the sum. So I'm going to say equals the sum, and it tells me, oh, this is the sum of all the series of cells. So I'm going to click on this one, and you'll notice again it tells you what this is supposed to look like. I could say I want the sum of, for example, cell B5 comma B10 comma B15, and I want you to look over at the side when I'm doing that. It's highlighting these for me. That's what these examples are telling you. Other ways to do it is how we did before. I'm going to backspace to where it's asking me for the value. Notice the open parentheses. I'm just going to highlight these and say find the sum. And here again, the range. Ranges have this little colon in it. So from B2 to B39, I want you to find the sum. It's probably good practice to close the parentheses, but even if you don't and you hit enter, it says here, I added all of these things up. So you know how the average works. Find the average of two numbers, you take, or of 38 numbers, you add them all together and divide by 38. So here I've got the sum. Here I've got the number of numbers, which is kind of weird. So I am going to do the sum divided by the count, or the number of the numbers here. So to do that, I'm just going to do, in this case, not even it's a formula, but it's just division. I'm going to hit equals. I'm going to pick this number. Notice it's E4. I'm going to hit the divide sign, which is that / divided by 38, and then hit enter. And now it divides that for me, and I can open this up a little bit, dragging so I can see, oh, that's the average. Another way for me to do that is to actually use the average formula. So I'm just going to hit equals average, and since instead of highlighting these, I'm just going to click row B. It's going to average all of the things together in row B if I do that in the right way. So here's average, open parenthesis, row B. Notice this means all of, I shouldn't say row, column B. Average all of column B, and there you go. It's the exact same number because this is how we found it. This makes it really nice for when you want to find the median. I mentioned that before. I can find the median equals, median, quotation marks, all of row B. What's the median number? It's 1954. I can verify that over here by doing something like this. Sort it from smallest to largest. And it would go, well, there's 38 numbers. Remember, I'm starting at 2. So as I go through here, remember there's an even number of numbers. So I would be like, okay, I'm looking for 38 divided by 2 is 19. I'm like, oh, the 19th number is 1893. Oh, excuse me, I'm off by 1. The 19th number is 1911. Starting with 2 to 20, that's 19 numbers. The 20th number is 1997. They had 1954. Well, that's because it is equals, and I'm just going to put the whole formula in, just to type it. It equals parentheses 1997 plus 1911 divided by 2. I mean, it just did the average of those two things. So since this one wasn't the middle number and this one wasn't the middle number, it took both of them together and it found the average. So again, we could have done something like this. I could insert function average and said find the average of those two numbers, 1954. So a lot of ways to manipulate those things and to use the formulas. There's also, when you go to this insert function, there's also an entire page of formulas, a lot that we will not use. There's tons of them. So if you're thinking about something, there's a lot of them that it will do. And as we come across them, if there's things that you're working in, it's really handy to start getting familiar with this. So that is how we can kind of arrange the data in in Google Sheets. So the one other thing, and it's a little bit different than doing it in Excel, is going to be creating the histogram. Well, not too hard, because in here I can take this data, I can right click on it. Oh, excuse me, not right click. I can insert a chart. And one of the charts that it wants to try and do is a histogram. So notice, remember the difference between a histogram and a bar graph. The bar graph is taking each one of these countries and it's giving me a bar representing the total number there. The histogram is breaking it up and saying how many countries have between 0 and 1,000. So that's the histogram of numbers versus the numbers versus countries. So remember, a histogram, it's always numbers and then how many times they appear. So that's the histogram. The problem is, and I'll do some more look into it, but at least the last time that I looked, there is no way for us to change. Well, let's try. No, we can't. That scale just changes the scale of the block. There's no way for us to change the actual size of these bins. Like they're going from 0 to 1,000. And they just arbitrarily kind of cut those off, in 1,000 to 2,000. It would be really nice if we could change the size from 0 to 500 and 500 to 1,000. But if you do find the way to do that, let me know. I'd be really, really excited. Which sounds strange. But anyway, that is using Google Sheets and making the histogram. And now I'm just going to hit insert. And I have this little chart here that I can move around and edit and rename some of the things, whatever you want to do. So that is it for creating a histogram with Google Sheets.